Park One stared at his cards and tried not to smile. Across the table, the merchant named was already counting his winnings in his head. One could see it in the way the alien's four eyes blinked one after another, a sign of pleasure among his kind. The gambling den sat in the lower levels of station, where the air recyclers worked poorly and the lights flickered every few minutes. This was where humans ended up in alien space. The bottom, the forgotten corners. One had learned to call such places home over the past 3 years. "You are certain you wish to continue, human?" asked. His translator box made his voice sound flat, but one could hear the mockery underneath. "You have already lost your emergency funds. What else do you have to offer?" One pushed his last credit chip to the center of the table. "Everything I have left, 6,000 credits. His mouth stretched into what passed for a smile among the too many teeth, too much confidence. "And what do you want from me if you win? You cannot afford anything I own." "That ship," one said. "The wreck in Docking Bay 47, the one you've been trying to sell for 2 years. The other aliens at nearby tables went quiet. Then someone laughed. Then everyone laughed. The sound filled the gambling den like a wave, and one sat still through all of it. Laughed loudest of all. The seven, that worthless pile of ancient metal. "Human, I would give it to you for free if I did not have to pay docking fees on it. Every species in the galaxy has tried to make it work. It is dead. It has been dead for 400 years. "Then you have nothing to lose," one said calmly. His eyes blinked in sequence again. The alien was thinking. One knew what he was calculating. If won, he would get 6,000 credits. If he lost, he would get rid of a ship that cost him money every month just to keep docked. Either way, he won. "Very well, human, I accept." They played the final hand. The game was called 30 Stones, popular across a dozen species because of its simple rules. Each player held 5 cards with different values. The goal was to get closest to 30 without going over. Skill mattered. Luck mattered more. Revealed his cards first. 28. A strong hand. His 4 eyes gleamed with satisfaction. One turned his cards over one by one. 7, 12, 6, 4. The aliens watching began to laugh again. That was only 29. He would need exactly a 1 to win, and ones were rare in the deck. He flipped his last card. 1. 30 exactly. The laughter stopped, stared at the cards for a long moment. Then he stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "You cheated. You must have cheated." "Check the cards," one said. He did not move. He did not blink. "Check my hands. Check whatever you want. I played fair." The den's owner, a massive creature with skin and small eyes, lumbered over. He examined the cards, examined one, and then made a rumbling sound in his throat. The game was clean. The human wins. His 4 eyes narrowed with hate. But he was a merchant, and merchants who broke gambling agreements did not stay merchants for long. He reached into his coat and pulled out a data chip. He threw it at one's chest. "Take it, take that worthless wreck. I hope it brings you nothing but misery." He stormed out of the den, and slowly the other aliens went back to their own games. One picked up the data chip. His heart was beating fast now, faster than it had during the game. He had been watching that ship for 6 months. He had studied every record he could find about it. Everyone said it was worthless. Everyone said it was dead. But one had seen something in those records that no one else had noticed, or maybe no one else had cared enough to look. He left the gambling den and walked through the station's corridors. It was an old station, built centuries ago when this region of space had been more important. Now it served as a junkyard, a trading post, a place where broken things and broken people ended up. Humans had been in space for almost 200 years. They had colonies, trading ships, and small stations of their own, but they were nothing compared to the great species of the galaxy. The Confederation controlled half the known trade routes. The Collective had the largest fleet. The Syndicate of Free Worlds had the most advanced technology. Humanity had determination. That was all. And in a galaxy that ran on power and profit, determination bought you a place in the lower levels of junkyard stations. One reached Docking Bay 47 and stopped at the viewing window. There it was, the 7. The ship was ugly by modern standards. It had no smooth lines, no elegant curves. It looked like someone had taken a dozen different ships and welded them together without any plan. The hull was dark, almost black, covered in strange patterns that might have been decoration or might have been writing. No one knew anymore. The species had died out 400 years ago, and they had left behind only mysteries. This ship was one of those mysteries. It had been found drifting in dead space, completely intact but completely powerless. Every species had tried to activate it. Scientists had studied it. Engineers had torn out panels and examined every wire. Nothing worked. The ship refused to turn on. So it had been sold and sold again and sold again, each owner hoping they would be the one to unlock its secrets. Each owner failed. Eventually it ended up here in a junkyard station, a joke that cost more to store than it was worth. One entered the docking bay and walked up the ship's loading ramp. The inside was dark and cold. His breath made small clouds in the air. He turned on his flashlight and moved through the corridors. The ship was big, bigger than anything a human salvage worker should ever own. It had crew quarters for 50, cargo bays that could hold enough supplies for years, and weapons systems that had never fired. At least, that was what the records said. One found his way to the bridge. The captain's chair sat in the center, covered in dust. The control panels were dark and silent. He sat down in the chair and looked around. "Okay," he said to the empty room. "Everyone says you're dead. Everyone says you're worthless." He ran his hand along the armrest. The metal was cold but smooth, worn down by whoever had sat here 400 years ago. "But I don't believe them. I think you're waiting. I think you've been waiting for a long time." The ship did not answer. Of course it did not. One smiled anyway. His communicator buzzed. He checked it and saw a message from a human trader who had become something like a friend over the past year. The message was short. "Heard you won the wreck. Everyone is laughing at you. Please tell me you have a plan." One typed back, "I always have a plan." That was only partly true. He had an idea. He had a theory. But he would need time to test it, and time meant money for food and air and docking fees. He checked his account. The 6,000 credits he had gambled were his last savings. He had maybe 2 months before he ran out of everything. 2 months to wake up a ship that had slept for 4 centuries. 2 months to prove the entire galaxy wrong. One leaned back in the captain's chair and closed his eyes. In the darkness of the dead ship, he allowed himself to hope. Outside on station, the aliens continued to laugh at the foolish human and his worthless prize. Betting pools formed within hours. Most people gave him 2 weeks before he gave up. Some gave him less. None of them understood. None of them could see what one saw. He was not buying a wreck. He was buying a chance. And for a human in this galaxy, chances were worth more than gold. 3 weeks passed, and one barely left the ship. He ate cold ration packs in the dark corridors. He slept on a thin mat in the crew quarters, wrapped in blankets because the life support systems were dead like everything else. He worked 18 hours a day, studying every panel, every wire, every strange marking on the walls. The other residents of station thought he had gone mad. They watched him carry equipment into Docking Bay 47 and shook their heads. The betting pools updated daily. Now most people expected him to quit within 1 more week. Visited him on the 22nd day. She found him lying under a console on the bridge, surrounded by tools and data pads. "You look terrible," she said. One slid out from under the console. His face was dirty and his eyes had dark circles beneath them. "Good morning to you too." "It's evening, station time anyway." Looked around the bridge. One had cleared away the dust and set up portable lights. The place almost looked alive now, even though the ship's own systems remained silent. Any progress? Maybe. One sat up and grabbed one of his data pads. I've been studying the records from everyone who tried to activate this ship before. Scientists, engineers, mechanics from a dozen different species. You know what they all have in common? They all failed. They all tried to power the ship from outside. They connected generators, fuel cells, energy crystals. They pumped power into the systems and waited for something to happen. One shook his head. Nothing ever did. The ship just absorbed the energy and stayed dead. Crossed her arms. So the ship is broken. No, the ship is waiting. One stood up and walked to the captain's chair. He ran his hand along the armrest, feeling the strange patterns carved into the metal. I found some old records about not much survives, but there are fragments, stories mostly, legends. Legends don't power starships. Maybe these do. One turned to face her. They didn't build ships the way other species do. They didn't think of ships as machines. They thought of them as partners, living things almost. Their ships weren't powered by fuel. They were powered by connection. Frowned. Connection to what? To their pilots. They could link their minds directly to their ships. The ship would feel what the pilot felt. It would respond to thoughts, to emotions, to intent. That's why no one has been able to turn this ship on. You can't just pump energy into it. You have to connect with it. You have to bond with it. And you think you can do that, a human? One smiled. I think humans might be the only species that can. He had spent weeks researching this. They had been gone for 400 years, but before they disappeared, they had left observations about other species. They had noted that most aliens had fixed neural structures. Their brains were powerful but rigid. They thought in set patterns that rarely changed. Humans were different. Human brains were plastic, adaptable, constantly rewiring themselves. Humans could learn new languages as adults. They could recover from brain injuries that would cripple other species. They could form emotional bonds with animals, with objects, even with machines. They had never met humans. They had died out before humanity reached the stars. But one believed that if any species could form the bond their ships required, it would be humans. That's a big theory, said quietly. How do you plan to test it? I don't know yet. The records don't explain how the bonding process worked. I've been searching for some kind of interface, some system that would let me connect. He gestured at the console behind him. I've found nothing. Every panel I open just has more questions. Was silent for a moment. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a container of hot food. Well, you're not going to figure anything out if you starve to death. Eat something. One took the container. The smell of real food made his stomach growl. Thank you. The station thinks you're crazy, you know. Has been telling everyone you'll come begging to sell the ship back to him within a month. Let them think what they want. Watched him eat. Her expression was worried but also something else. Hopeful, maybe. If you're right about this one, if you actually wake this ship up, everything changes. You know that, right? This isn't just some salvage find. This is a warship. The weapons alone would be worth more than some planetary economies. I know. They won't let you keep it. No one will. I know that too. One set down his food and met her eyes. But I'm tired. I'm tired of humans being pushed to the margins. I'm tired of living in the lower levels while other species laugh at us. Maybe I fail. Maybe this ship really is just a dead hunk of metal, but I have to try. I have to know. Nodded slowly. Then I hope you're right. She headed for the door, then paused. Be careful, one. Some of the aliens on this station are starting to pay attention. Not everyone thinks you're crazy. Some of them are starting to wonder if you know something they don't. After she left, one finished eating and went back to work. He crawled through maintenance tunnels. He examined power conduits that had carried no power for centuries. He studied the strange writing on the walls, symbols that no translator could decode. On the 25th day, he cut his hand. It was an accident. He was removing a panel in the engineering section when the metal edge sliced across his palm. Blood flowed freely, dripping onto the deck below. "Damn," he muttered, reaching for his emergency kit. Then he stopped. The blood had fallen onto a section of floor that looked different from the rest. Smoother, darker. As one watched, the blood seemed to sink into the material, disappearing like water into sand. And then the floor began to glow. Soft blue light spread out from where the blood had fallen. It traveled along lines that one had never noticed before, hidden patterns in the deck plating. The light moved up the walls, across the ceiling, filling the engineering section with a gentle glow. One's heart was pounding. He pressed his bleeding hand against the floor deliberately, adding more blood. The light grew brighter. The hidden pattern spread further. Then a voice spoke. Biological contact confirmed. Neural compatibility assessment initiated. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. It was deep and calm and very old. "Who are you?" one asked. His voice was shaking. "I am Vessel. I am the intelligence that guides this ship. I have been sleeping for 417 years, waiting for a compatible pilot." A pause. "You are not." "No, I'm human." "I do not know this species. You are small. Your biology is fragile. Your technology is primitive." Another pause. "Yet your neural structure is compatible. This is unexpected." One laughed. He could not help it. All those weeks of work, all those years of dreaming, and now he was having a conversation with a 400-year-old ship. "I've been called worse things than small and fragile." "You are attempting humor." They also used humor in stressful situations. The voice seemed to consider this. "Why have you awakened me, human? What do you want?" One thought about the question. He could ask for wealth. He could ask for power. He could ask for revenge against every alien who had ever looked down on his species. Instead, he told the truth. "I want to fly. I want to show the galaxy that humans are worth something. I want to take this ship and do something that matters." Silence. The blue light pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. "They created me to protect, to defend those who could not defend themselves. They sealed my weapons because they were ashamed of what I could do." The voice grew quieter. "They died before they could decide if I should ever wake again." "I'm sorry," one said. He meant it. "You feel genuine sorrow for a species you never knew. That is unusual." The light pulsed again. "Very well, human. I will allow the bonding process to continue. But know this. If you prove unworthy, if you seek to use me for conquest or cruelty, I will shut down forever. I will become the dead wreck everyone believes me to be." "I understand." "Then place both hands on the floor. This will hurt." One pressed his palms against the glowing surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then fire poured into his brain. He screamed. He could not help it. It felt like every nerve in his body was being rewritten. He saw flashes of memory that were not his own. A world covered in silver forests. A species with 4 arms and gentle eyes. Ships that sang to each other across the void. And then it was over. One lay on the floor, gasping for breath. The blue light had spread throughout the entire ship now. Consoles were flickering to life. The air recyclers hummed. The deck plates grew warm beneath him. "Bonding complete," Vessel said. "Neural link established at 47% efficiency. This will improve with time." One pushed himself up onto his hands and knees. His head was spinning, but he was smiling. "Welcome back," he whispered. "It is strange to be awake again." The ship's voice sounded different now, closer, more personal. "What do we do now, pilot?" One looked around at the living ship, at the lights glowing on every surface, at the future opening up before him. "Now," he said, "we show them what we can do." News traveled fast on station. Within hours of one activating the ship's basic systems, rumors began spreading through every level of the old junkyard. The human had turned on lights in the wreck. The human had gotten life support working. The human had done what scientists and engineers from a dozen species had failed to do for 4 centuries. Some people laughed and called it a trick. Others grew quiet and thoughtful. A few began making plans. One spent the next week learning his ship. Vessel taught him how the systems worked, how to read the alien displays, how to feel the ship's status through the neural link they now shared. It was strange and wonderful and exhausting. Every night he collapsed into sleep with his head full of new knowledge. "Your efficiency has improved to 63%, Vessel reported on the 7th day. "The bond grows stronger with use." "It feels like having a second brain," one said. He was sitting in the captain's chair, eyes closed, sensing the ship around him. He could feel the power flowing through the conduits like blood through veins. He could feel the hull like skin, aware of every vibration and temperature change. They described the bond as becoming one being with two minds. They considered it sacred. "What happened to them? You never told me how they died." Vessel was silent for a moment. The ship's AI did not experience emotions the way living beings did, but one could feel something through their link, something heavy, something old. They destroyed themselves, a civil war over whether to share their technology with younger species. One side believed sharing would uplift the galaxy, the other believed it would cause chaos and suffering. The lights on the bridge dimmed slightly. Both sides were right in different ways. The war lasted 200 years. By the end, there were not enough left to sustain their civilization. "I'm sorry. You say that often, you mean it every time. This is one of the things I find interesting about you." The lights brightened again. "They would have liked humans, I think. Your species has the same capacity for both great good and great evil, the same potential." Before one could respond, an alarm chimed. Through the neural link he felt it before he heard it, ships approaching, many ships coming fast. "We have visitors," Vessel said. One pulled up the external sensors. His stomach dropped. 12 ships had just entered the space around station. They were military vessels, sleek and dangerous, armed with weapons that could crack asteroids. "That's a battle group," one breathed. "Correct. 1 heavy cruiser, 4 destroyers, 7 support craft. They are hailing the station." One switched to the station's communication channels. He heard the voice of an officer, cold and commanding. "This is Admiral of the Confederation Navy. We are here on official business regarding stolen property. The ship currently docked in Bay 47 belongs to a citizen and was obtained through fraud. We demand its immediate return." One felt cold anger building in his chest. "Fraud. I won that ship in a fair game. Dozens of witnesses saw it." "Human gambling laws do not apply to property. The merchant has filed a formal complaint." The admiral's voice carried no emotion. "You have 12 hours to surrender the vessel. If you refuse, we will take it by force. You will be arrested for theft and tried under law." The channel closed. One sat in the captain's chair, his hands gripping the armrests. Through the neural link, he could feel Vessel waiting, watching, curious about how he would respond. His communicator buzzed. "One, what's happening? There are warships outside the station." "They want the ship, reported it's stolen." "That's ridiculous. Everyone knows you won it fairly." "Since when has fairness mattered to the—" Was quiet for a moment. "What are you going to do?" One closed his eyes. He thought about his options. He could surrender. He could give up the ship and walk away. He would probably spend years in a prison, but he would survive. He could go back to being nobody, scraping by in the margins of alien society. Or he could fight. "I'm not giving them my ship," he said. "One, they have 12 warships. You have one ancient vessel that's been dead for 400 years. Not dead anymore." The neural link hummed with something that felt almost like approval. "You are considering combat," Vessel said after ended the call, "against 12 modern warships." "I'm considering not surrendering. There's a difference." A small one that will attack if you refuse their demands. One stood up and walked to the main viewport. Through the thick glass, he could see the distant shapes of the fleet, their running lights blinking against the stars. Can we fight them? Unknown. My weapons have not been fired in 417 years. I do not know if they still function. But if they do work. A pause. If my weapons function as designed, the fleet would be significantly outmatched. They built me to end wars, pilot. I was their most powerful warship. They sealed my weapons because they feared what I could do. One felt the weight of that statement. A weapon so powerful that its own creators had been afraid of it. A weapon that had slept for 4 centuries, waiting for someone worthy to wake it. I don't want to destroy them, he said quietly. I just want them to leave us alone. That may not be possible. They do not accept defiance from species they consider inferior. Then we teach them to accept it. A knock at the docking bay door interrupted his thoughts. One checked the sensors and saw 2 humans standing outside. He recognized one of them, a mercenary who had been stranded on the station for almost a year. The other was a woman he had seen working in the repair bays. If he remembered correctly. He let them in. We heard what's happening, said. He was a tall man with hands and careful eyes. They are going to take your ship. They're going to try. And exchanged looks. We want to help, said. She was shorter than, with grease-stained clothes and the confident posture of someone who knew machines inside and out. I've worked on 100 ships. Whatever you need fixed, I can fix it. And I've fought in a dozen systems, added. If there's going to be a battle, you need people who know how to handle themselves. One studied them both. Why, this isn't your fight. Yes, it is, said firmly. I've been stuck on this station for 2 years watching the push humans around, watching them take our contracts, our cargo, our dignity. You're the first person who's actually standing up to them. She lifted her chin. I want to be part of that. Nodded. Same. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of hiding. If you've really got a working warship, then maybe it's time to stop being afraid. One felt something warm spread through his chest. He had expected to face this alone. He had prepared himself for it. But here were 2 strangers, 2 humans who barely knew him, willing to risk their lives because they believed in what he was doing. Vessel, he said, how many crew do we need to operate at full capacity? Minimum crew for combat operations is 4. Optimal crew is 12. Then we have enough, barely. One turned to and, welcome aboard. I hope you're both ready for the worst day of your lives. Grinned, I've had a lot of bad days. I'm used to it. They spent the next 11 hours preparing. Dove into the engineering section, working alongside Vessel's guidance to bring long-dormant systems back to life. Learned the weapon controls, his military experience helping him adapt to the alien interfaces. Arrived 3 hours before the deadline, announcing that she was not going to miss the bravest thing any human has ever done. She took the navigator's position on the bridge. You know we're probably going to die, she said as she studied the controls. Probably, one agreed. Good, just wanted to make sure we're all being realistic. When the 12 hours ended, Admiral's voice came over the communications channel again. Human, your time is up. Surrender the vessel now or face the consequences. One opened a channel to respond. His voice was steady. Admiral, I won this ship legally. I have witnesses. I have documentation. The Confederation has no claim to it. Your primitive human laws are irrelevant. This is your final warning. Then here's mine. One took a deep breath. If you attack me, I will defend myself. If you try to board my ship, I will stop you. I am not your enemy, Admiral, but I am not your prey either. Silence on the channel. Then the Admiral spoke one word. Fire. Through the neural link, one felt the weapons charging. Through the viewport, he saw the flash of missile launches. Vessel, he said calmly, let's see what you can do. The ancient ship hummed with power. Systems that had slept for 400 years roared to life. And the seven began to fight. The first missiles were seconds away when the shields activated. One did not give a command. He did not press a button. He simply thought about protection, about survival, and vessel responded. Blue energy wrapped around the hull in layers, patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living water. The missiles struck, the ship shook, but the shields held. Shield integrity at 94%, vessel reported. Weapons are less effective than anticipated. Their technology has not advanced significantly in 4 centuries. Don't get overconfident, one said through gritted teeth. He could feel the impacts through the neural link like punches against his own skin. There are 12 of them. I am not capable of overconfidence. I am capable of accurate assessment. If a ship could sound smug, vessel did. Shall I return fire? One hesitated. Through the link he sensed the weapon systems coming online. Power flowed into capacitors that had been empty for 400 years. The ship was ready. The ship was eager. Target their weapons only. I don't want to kill anyone if we can avoid it. Understood. Precision targeting engaged. The seven moved. That was the only word for it. One moment they were drifting near the station. The next moment they were somewhere else entirely, leaving behind a trail of blue light. One's stomach lurched. The ship had moved faster than any vessel he had ever heard of. What was that? Phase displacement, a standard maneuver. Your species has not discovered this technology. We can barely manage faster-than-light travel. Interesting. Perhaps I should not demonstrate all capabilities at once. The shock might harm you. Despite the situation, one almost laughed. On the bridge behind him was gripping her console with white knuckles. Please warn us before you do that again. I will try to remember. The fleet was scrambling. Their neat formation had broken apart as they tried to track the suddenly mobile target. Admiral was shouting orders over the command channel, his calm voice finally showing cracks of anger. All ships concentrate fire on that vessel. Do not let it escape. I have no intention of escaping, Vessel said, broadcasting on the same channel. The aliens had not realized the old ship could hear them. I intend to end this quickly. The ship moved again. This time one was ready for it, bracing himself against the captain's chair. They appeared directly behind one of the destroyers, so close that one could see individual hull plates through the viewport. Vessel fired. The weapon made no sound in space, but one felt it through the neural link. A beam of concentrated energy, invisible to the naked eye, struck the destroyer's engine section with surgical precision. The engines exploded. The ship went dark, spinning slowly, crippled but intact. One disabled, Vessel reported, 11 remaining. The fleet opened fire with everything they had. Space around the seven filled with missiles, energy beams, and projectiles. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The ship danced through it. One stopped thinking in words. The neural link carried him into something deeper, a state where his instincts merged with Vessel's calculations. He felt threats before they arrived. He sensed opportunities before they appeared. The ship responded to his will like an extension of his own body. They were everywhere and nowhere, appearing beside one ship, firing, disappearing, materializing behind another, striking, vanishing. They could not track them. Their targeting computers were designed for normal ships, ships that moved in straight lines and followed predictable physics. The seven did not follow normal physics. In the engineering section, watched the power readings with wide eyes. This is impossible, she whispered. The energy output is beyond anything I've ever seen. Where is it coming from? Through the internal speakers, Vessel answered her. They discovered how to tap into the fabric of space itself. The power is essentially unlimited. I could fight for years without depleting my reserves. Then why did your creator seal you away? because they understood that power without wisdom leads to destruction. They feared what I might become in the wrong hands. On the weapons console was tracking their attacks. His face was pale but determined. Second destroyer disabled. Third one losing shields. The cruiser is trying to retreat. Do not let the cruiser escape, one said. If runs, he'll come back with a bigger fleet. Understood. The ship lunged across space, moving so fast that the stars blurred into lines. They appeared directly in front of the heavy cruiser, blocking its escape route. Admiral's flagship loomed in the viewport, its weapons trying desperately to lock onto the impossible target before it. Vessel fired again. The cruiser's main guns exploded. Its shields flickered and died. A second shot took out its engines. A third destroyed its communication array. The flagship drifted helplessly, smoke pouring from a dozen wounds. The cruiser is disabled, Vessel reported. The remaining destroyers are attempting to flee. Shall I pursue? One thought for a moment. Through the neural link, he could feel Vessel's capabilities. He could chase down every ship. He could destroy them utterly, leave nothing but debris floating in the void. But that was not who he wanted to be. Let them go. They've learned their lesson. Are you certain? If they report back to the Confederation, there will be consequences. There will be consequences either way. I'd rather face them knowing I showed mercy when I could have shown violence. Vessel was quiet for a moment. Through their bond, one felt something that might have been respect. You are very different from the beings I was created to serve. They would have destroyed their enemies without hesitation. They would have considered mercy a weakness. And look where it got them. One regretted the words immediately. I'm sorry, I didn't mean. You are correct. They destroyed themselves because they forgot how to show mercy to each other. Perhaps your approach is wiser. The ship's systems hummed softly. I find myself curious to see where it leads. On the bridge, finally released her grip on her console. Her hands were shaking. Did we just win? We survived, one said. I don't know if that counts as winning. It counts, said. He was grinning now, the tension breaking. We just fought a battle group with 4 people and a ship that hasn't been used in 4 centuries. We more than won. We made history. Through the viewport, they could see the crippled ships drifting in space. Escape pods were launching from some of them, crews abandoning damaged vessels. The remaining destroyers were accelerating away as fast as their engines could carry them. One opened a channel to the disabled flagship. Admiral, this is the human ship. Do you require assistance? Silence, then a voice, tight with barely controlled rage. You dare to mock me. I'm not mocking you. I'm offering to help rescue your crew from damaged ships. You attacked me. I defended myself. That doesn't mean I want your people to die. More silence. One could imagine the Admiral struggling with his pride, his hatred, his disbelief at what had just happened. We do not need help from humans. The offer stands anyway. Vessel will transmit our position to any rescue ships you call. We won't interfere with recovery operations. The channel closed without another word. Shook her head slowly. You just offered help to the people who tried to kill us. They were following orders. The soldiers on those ships didn't choose this fight. The Confederation did. One leaned back in his chair, suddenly exhausted. The neural link took energy and the battle had drained him. Besides, every who survives today is a witness. They'll tell people what they saw, a human ship that couldn't be beaten, a human captain who showed mercy. And that matters to you, what they think. It matters to every human in this galaxy. Today we stopped being prey. Today we became something else. He closed his eyes. I just hope it's something good. Outside, the stars burned silently. The broken ships drifted among them, monuments to a battle that would be remembered for centuries. And on station, the aliens who had laughed at the foolish human and his worthless wreck watched the recordings in stunned silence. No one was laughing now. In the hours that followed, news of the battle spread. Traders carried stories to distant stations. Military channels buzzed with reports. Data streams sent recordings across the galaxy at the speed of light. A human had activated a warship. A human had defeated a battle group. A human had shown mercy to his enemies. The galaxy had a new story to tell. And for the first time in 200 years, humans were at the center of it. 1 month after the battle, one received a summons to the Galactic Assembly. The message came through official channels, stamped with seals from a dozen species. The Confederation had filed a formal complaint. They wanted the ship seized as a dangerous weapon. They wanted one arrested for piracy and assault. "You should not go," Vessel said. "The Assembly has no authority to compel you. Your ship is faster than anything they possess. You could simply leave." "And spend the rest of my life running," one shook his head. "No, if humanity is going to have a place in this galaxy, we need to earn it. That means facing their laws, even when those laws are stacked against us." The journey to the assembly station took 3 days. One used the time to prepare, studying galactic law with Vessel's help, practicing what he would say, helped him refine his arguments, and kept the ship running smoothly. They had become a crew in the weeks since the battle, not just people thrown together by circumstance, but a team, a family almost. "Whatever happens in there," said on the morning of the hearing, "we're with you, all of us." The assembly station was massive, a ring of metal and glass that orbited a neutral star. Ships from every species docked in its bays. Diplomats and representatives filled its corridors, speaking 100 different languages. One walked through those corridors alone. The assembly had demanded he come without weapons, without guards, without his ship. He had agreed. Behind him, the 7 waited in the docking bay. Through the neural link, he could feel Vessel watching, ready to act if anything went wrong. The assembly chamber was a vast circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Representatives from 63 recognized species sat in those seats, watching as one walked to the platform and stood before them. The representative spoke first. His name was High Marsh, and his voice dripped with contempt. "This human stands accused of theft, piracy, and unprovoked assault against vessels of the Confederation. We demand justice. We demand the return of the vessel to its rightful owners. We demand punishment for these crimes." The assembly murmured. One waited. "Furthermore," Marsh continued, "we request that the ship be seized by the assembly and dismantled. Such a weapon is too dangerous to remain in the hands of any single species, especially a species as primitive and violent as humans." More murmuring. Some voices seemed to agree. The assembly speaker, a tall being with silver skin, turned to one. "You may respond to these charges." One took a deep breath. "Thank you, Speaker. I will address each charge in turn." He spoke calmly, clearly, the way he had practiced. He explained how he had won the ship in a legal game of chance. He presented evidence from witnesses on station. He showed records proving that the merchant had offered the ship willingly. "The charge of theft is false. I own this ship legally under the laws of every species represented here." Then he addressed the charge of piracy. "I never attacked anyone. I never boarded another vessel. I never stole cargo or took hostages. The Confederation sent a battle group to take my property by force. I defended myself. That is not piracy. That is survival." Finally, he addressed the charge of assault. "Admiral gave me 12 hours to surrender my ship. When I refused, he ordered his fleet to fire on me. I responded to that attack. I disabled his ships. I destroyed no lives. When the battle was over, I offered assistance to rescue survivors." He paused. "The call that assault, I call it mercy." The chamber had gone quiet. Representatives leaned forward in their seats, listening intently. "High Marsh wants you to seize my ship and dismantle it. He says it's too dangerous, but the 7 has been in this galaxy for 400 years. It sat in a junkyard while every species tried to claim it. None of them could make it work. One lifted his chin. I did, not because I'm smarter or stronger than anyone else, but because humans are different. We adapt, we connect, we bond with things that others consider worthless. He turned slowly, looking at the faces around him. For 200 years, humanity has lived at the margins of this galaxy. We've been pushed aside, exploited, laughed at. Our colonies have been squeezed by trade restrictions. Our ships have been harassed by pirates that other species ignore. Our people have been treated as less than equal. His voice grew stronger. I am not here to threaten anyone. I am not here to demand conquest or revenge. I am here to ask for something simple. Let us prove ourselves. Let us show you what we can do. Let us be partners in this galaxy instead of victims. He pointed toward the viewport, where the Seven was visible in the distance. That ship chose me. A 400-year-old intelligence looked at all the species in this galaxy and decided that a human was worthy of bonding with it. Maybe that should tell you something about who we are. The chamber was silent. Then a voice spoke, one that made one's heart skip. It came from everywhere at once, broadcast through the chamber's speakers. Deep and ancient and impossibly calm. Members of the Galactic Assembly, I am Vessel, the intelligence that guides the ship you are discussing. I have observed many species over my existence. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched civilizations destroy themselves and others flourish. The representatives shifted in their seats, startled. Some looked frightened. They created me to protect the innocent and defend the weak. They sealed me away because they lost faith in their own wisdom. For 400 years, I waited for a pilot who could prove that faith was not misplaced. The voice softened. Park One could have used me to conquer. He could have destroyed the fleet and taken revenge for centuries of human suffering. Instead, he chose mercy. He chose restraint. He chose to become a defender rather than a destroyer. A pause. Of all the species I have observed, humans possess a rare combination of adaptability and compassion. They are flawed, they make mistakes, but they also grow, they learn, they become better. Another pause. They would be proud to see what their creation has found. The voice faded, the chamber remained silent. Then the assembly speaker rose. This body will now vote on the petition. The vote took only minutes. 63 species cast their decisions. When the count was finished, the speaker announced the result. The petition is, the ship belongs legally to Park One. No charges will be filed. Marsh slammed his fist against his seat. This is an outrage. You are giving a weapon of mass destruction to primitives. The assembly has spoken, the speaker said calmly. The matter is closed. One walked out of the chamber with his head held high. Representatives from other species watched him pass. Some looked angry, some looked thoughtful, some nodded with what might have been respect. When he reached the docking bay, his crew was waiting. We watched the whole thing, said. Her eyes were bright with tears she was trying not to shed. You were amazing. We all were. One looked at his ship, his partner, his home. Vessel, what do we do now? Now we fulfill our purpose. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We defend the weak against the powerful. We show the galaxy what humans can truly be. One smiled. He thought about a new name for the ship, something that would represent what they had become, something that would carry meaning across the stars. Soul's Promise, he said. That's what we'll call her. A promise to every human colony, every human trader, every human who's ever felt alone in this galaxy. They're not alone anymore. In the weeks that followed, humans from across known space reached out. Engineers wanting to learn from, soldiers wanting to serve under, pilots wanting to fly with One. The crew of the Soul's Promise grew from 4 to 12 to 20. They became protectors, they became legends. The galaxy had laughed at the old wreck. They had laughed at the foolish human who thought he could make something of it. They weren't laughing anymore. They were watching, they were learning, they were beginning to understand. Humanity had arrived,